In 1987, while trolling in the English Channel, a fisherman hauled up a piece of metal that caught his attention. Years later, he would realize it resembled parts from the same type of aircraft in which Glenn Miller disappeared. That discovery added yet another layer to one of the most haunting mysteries of World War II, a disappearance long wrapped in rumors, propaganda, and half-buried truths. When Glenn Miller's plane vanished in December 1944, the military initially blamed bad weather. For decades, that explanation stood, though whispers of darker possibilities never faded. Recently released documents and long-hidden testimonies tell a clearer, though no less tragic story. The pilot reportedly tried to turn back multiple times. Radio transmissions ended abruptly, cut off mid-sentence. Years later, fragments surfaced that didn't immediately match known wreckage from the era. After nearly 80 years of speculation, exaggeration, and deliberate cover-ups, the truth appears far less sinister than the rumors, but no less devastating. Glenn Miller was born on March 1, 1904, in Clarinda, Iowa, into a strict Methodist household where music was almost absent. His parents, Mattie Lou and Louis Miller, struggled financially, moving often across rural towns. At age 10, Glenn received a mandolin from his father, but he soon traded it for a cornet, something easier to carry during the family's frequent relocations. That simple decision quietly set his life's direction. By his teens, music had become his anchor. After settling in Missouri and later Colorado, Glenn worked odd jobs, milking cows and mixing concrete, to afford a trombone. He practiced relentlessly, sometimes late into the night in barns under fading starlight. School held little interest for him beyond math and Latin, but music consumed him entirely. At 14, he walked into a pawn shop and bought a used trombone for $5. A bold gamble for a boy with almost nothing. After high school, he skipped graduation and joined a touring band, earning modest pay in smoky dance halls. The life was hard and unglamorous, but it showed him the reality of professional music. A brief attempt at college ended quickly when an offer to play full-time arrived. Against his parents' wishes, he sold his college trombone for travel money and walked away from university, a choice that looked reckless but proved decisive. Throughout the late 1920s and early 1930s, Miller struggled. He played, arranged, slept on couches and sometimes benches. He ghost-wrote arrangements for radio shows, walked miles to save subway fare, and lived out of a single suitcase. During the Great Depression, he learned jazz not just on stage but through endless hours of writing charts for other bandleaders. Rejection pushed him toward arranging, where he discovered a rare gift for shaping sound. Those years in speakeasies and backrooms taught him discipline. He saw how chaos could erupt without structure and how music, when precise and controlled, could unite a room instantly. That understanding later defined his unmistakable sound. By the late 1930s, after financial ruin, pawned instruments, and failed bands, Miller finally rebuilt. He formed a tighter orchestra, rehearsed obsessively, and perfected the clarinet-led saxophone sound that soon became iconic. Success arrived swiftly. Radio broadcasts carried his music nationwide. Songs like Moonlight Serenade and In the Mood turned him into a household name. By 1942, he was earning enormous sums, recording hit after hit and performing for tens of thousands. Yet behind the polished image, pressure mounted. Health problems worsened from years of heavy smoking. Sinus infections, chronic fatigue, and early emphysema drained him. Financial stress lingered due to royalty disputes and gambling losses, which strained his marriage to Helen. Despite fame, guilt followed him. He missed milestones in his children's lives and struggled privately with alcohol. His letters revealed a man torn between ambition and family, pride and regret. Even so, when the United States entered World War II, Miller made a decision that stunned the public. At the height of his career, he enlisted in the Army Air Forces, disbanded his orchestra, and donated a significant portion of his wealth to the war effort. Miller believed music could lift morale faster than speeches or slogans. He built one of the most accomplished military bands ever assembled, blending swing and classical traditions. Some officers resisted his modern approach, but soldiers embraced it. His broadcasts reached millions, offering comfort during uncertainty and fear. By 1944, he was stationed in England, broadcasting weekly and preparing for performances across liberated Europe. But the war took its toll. Food shortages, bombings, exhaustion, and declining health weighed heavily on him. His cough worsened, his breath shortened, and his energy faded. Still he refused to slow down. Wartime censorship kept his condition hidden, even from his wife. Determined to reach Paris for a Christmas broadcast, he boarded a small UC-64A Norseman aircraft on December 15, 1944. The weather that day was brutal. Freezing fog reduced visibility to almost nothing. Ice formed quickly on wings and inside carburetors. The Norseman was not designed for long flights over cold water in such conditions. Pilot John Morgan reportedly expressed concern, but pressure from Norman Bessel to proceed prevailed. Shortly after takeoff, the aircraft entered an icing zone. The engine likely lost power as ice choked fuel lines and airflow. No distress call was sent. The plane disappeared over the English Channel, likely plunging into the icy water within seconds of engine failure. In such temperatures, survival time would have been measured in minutes at best. With the Battle of the Bulge raging, search efforts were minimal. No wreckage was officially recovered, and the case was quietly closed. Silence bred speculation. Nazi propaganda claimed Miller died in a Paris brothel. Others suggested friendly fire from Allied bombers, secret missions, mob connections, or even staged death. Each theory thrived on the absence of physical evidence. Over time, historians dismantled these claims one by one using flight logs, military records, and declassified files. In 1945, the Army concluded the crash was caused by weather-related icing and mechanical failure, but classified the findings to protect morale. Decades later, researcher Dennis Sprague uncovered those documents through persistent archival work, confirming the original conclusion. Additional discoveries followed. A lost affidavit describing a small plane struggling in icy fog, declassified RAF weather logs confirming extreme conditions, and scattered aircraft parts consistent with the Norseman. Yet questions remain. Pilot logs were heavily redacted. Some evidence surfaced only to be dismissed quickly. Each official closure seemed to deepen public doubt. For Miller's family, the rumors never stopped. Helen endured decades of prank calls claiming he was alive. His children carried the emotional scars long after the war ended. The truth, stripped of conspiracy, is painfully human. A gifted musician, exhausted and ill, pushed forward out of duty and pressure. A vulnerable aircraft met unforgiving weather. Decisions made in haste sealed the outcome. Glenn Miller did not die in scandal or secrecy, but in cold skies over dark water, a victim of circumstance and resolve.